Okay, so we learned about how to graph two equations to find the solution. It was simply the point on the graph where they intersected or the point that they shared. Well, good news. Now we're going to learn a method that does not involve graphing at all. It's called the substitution method, and it is basically done algebraically without a graph. So it is a process of solving a system of equations. Remember that meant two equations by substituting values into each equation. And I'll show you what that looks like. Step one of your two equations has to be solved for x or y, either one, not both. One of your equations, what that means is one of your equations needs to start out either x equals something or y equals something. Just one of them, and it can be for either variable. Step two, here's where the substitution comes in. We're going to substitute this expression into the other equation and solve for the variable. I'll walk through a few problems to show you what we're doing. Okay, now you're going to have one of the variables, either x or y, solved at this point, and then you're going to substitute again your answer into the revised equation from step one and solve for the other variable. And that probably doesn't make sense until you see it in action here. So let's work through a couple of problems here. Number one, it says y equals 4x minus 1 and y equals 2x minus 5. So this is a system. There's two equations. Okay, and there's two variables, and we're trying to figure out the solution, the ordered pair where they cross at. Okay, so at this point, I could graph this. Some of us are really strong at graphing. Some of us struggle a little bit at graphing, but we're going to teach you a method today that's the substitution method, so you don't have to graph them. At this point in the problem, I do not know what x is, and I don't know what y is. But I do know something about y. I know that y is equal to 4x minus 1. I also know that y is equal to 2x minus 5. So with substitution, here's the process. Since I know that y is equal to this, I can go to the other equation, and where I see y, I can replace that y or substitute in this right here, what I know y is equal to. Okay, let me say it again. Since I know y is equal to 4x minus 1, I can take this y out and put 4x minus 1 in its place because I know y is equal to that. So rewriting this second equation where I see that y, I'm going to replace it with 4x minus 1, and then here's my equal sign, and then 2x minus 5. And now I have an equation that only has x's in it, and I can solve this equation for x, and that will give me this number. So I got a variable on both sides. Remember, bring the child to the parents. I'm going to take away 2x from both sides. And I'm left with 2x minus 1 equals negative 5. Add 1 to both sides. And I'm left with 2x equals negative 4. And then when I divide by 2, I get x equals negative 2. There is my x number. Okay, so I know my x number is negative 2. Now I need to find my y number. Well, if I know x is negative 2, I can go back to either equation, whichever one looks easier, and I can plug negative 2 in for x and solve it for y. So let's take the second equation. Y equals 2x minus 5. But I also know now that x is negative 2. So I can replace this x with negative 2. So instead of 2 times x, it's 2 times negative 2. And when I simplify this, this is going to give me my y value. Well, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 minus 5. Y is negative 9. So here I've solved this without graphing. Let's take a look at number 2. This equation is solved for y. I know y is equal to 6x. So I can replace the y here in this equation with 6x. Rewriting this equation, 2x plus 3y, but I'm not going to use y. I'm going to use 6x. See, I just rewrote that just like it looks. I'm taking the y out and I'm putting a 6x in its place. Now I can solve this for x. 3 times 6 is, I'm going to go ahead and multiply those together. That gives me 18x. 2 and 18 make 20x. Now divide both sides by 20. We should know how to solve these equations by now. You get x equals -1. Now I need to find the y number. Go back to either equation, whichever one looks easier. Well, this one looks easier. That one definitely looks easier. Y equals 6x, and I'm going to replace the x now with -1 because I already found that number. So y equals 6 times -1. 6 times -1 is -6. There is my equation. Let's look at one a little bit different. Look at number 4. One of the equations, this one, it's solved for x, and that was okay. Remember, I got to solve it for x or y, either one. So this one's solved for x. So I know that x is equal to 4y plus 7. See how I circle that? Now I'm going to draw an arrow where I'm plugging it into. I'm plugging it into x because that's what x is equal to. I'm going to rewrite this second equation. But instead of using x, I'm going to use 4y plus 7 because that's what x is equal to. All right. So rewriting that equation. 2 times x, but x again is 4y plus 7. So 2 times x, then minus 6y equals 12. And now I have an equation I can solve. And I hope you see what we're going to have to do here because we have parentheses we're going to have to distribute. So 2 times 4 is 8y. 2 times 7 is 14 minus 6y equals 12. Now these two guys are on the same side of the equal sign, so I just add them together. 8 and -6 make 2y. Bring down my 14 and then solve this two-step equation. When I take away 14 from both sides, I'm left with 2y equals -2. And divide by 2, you get y equals -1. Now what I have found this time is my y number, not my x number. But I can go back and I can plug this number in for y into either equation. This last step, you can use either one, whichever one looks easier. And I believe this one is easier. So since y is -1, I can just replace that with -1. And this will help me solve for x. 4 times -1 is -4, and then plus 7. -4 plus 7 is 3. And there's my solution. Last one. Okay, now let's look at number 9. Neither equation is solved for x or for y, either one. So you're going to need to solve one of them. But there's a little trick you can use. If I'm looking at these two equations, I can solve for x or y, and I can solve either equation. Well, I'm going to look for an equation that has either a 1x or a 1y in it, and I see that this one has a 1y in it. Well, I can solve this equation really easy for y, getting y by itself, by simply taking away 2x from both sides. So this second equation, when I minus 2x from both sides, I'm left with y equals, I'm going to put the -2x in front, plus 18, and now I have an equation that's solved for y. So I'm going to take this and go to my first equation because I haven't used it yet, and I'm going to plug this in for y. I'm going to plug it in right there for y. So I'm going to rewrite this equation exactly as it looks. 6x plus 3y, but now I'm not going to use y. I'm going to use -2x plus 18, and then finish it, equals 54. And now I have an equation I can solve for x. There's the parentheses I'm going to have to distribute. 3 times -2 is -6x. 3 times 18 is 54 equals 54. Oh, here's a special case. you're going to see what happens. What's 6x take away 6x? It's not x, it's 0. So you end up with this. These cancel out completely. This is a special case. I did not know this was going to happen on this problem, but that's okay. When we're solving equations and all your variables disappear, remember what the situation called for. If this was a statement that did not make sense, or if it was false, that would mean there was no solution. But in this case, this is true. This does make sense, but there's no variables left. This is infinitely many solutions, or the infinite sign, which means if you graphed these, they would be the same line. Okay? Did not mean for that to happen. Let's see. Let's work another one. Number 8, if I see this 1x, I can solve for x really easy by just taking away 4y. So if I take away 4y here and take away 4y here, I'm left with x equals, well, 0 take away 4y is just negative 4y. Now I can substitute that into the other equation for x. So 3 times negative 4y. So all I've done is rewrite this second equation, but I'm replacing x with negative 4y. And now I can solve this. Multiply here, that's negative 12y plus 2y equals 20. Add these together to get negative 10y equals 20. And then when you divide by negative 10, you get y equals negative 2. So you found the x number. So now you need to find the y number. Well, go back to either one of these. I'm going to go back to the first equation, x plus 4y equals 0, and I'm going to plug this in for y. So x equals 4 times negative 2 equals 0. Whoops, x plus 4 times the y number. I'm using this first equation. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 equals 0. And then when you add 8 to both sides, you get x equals 8. And there's your solution. Okay? Okay.